So what we are going to do in this 2-day period, these 2 days are 4-hour session each day, and we will go through all the basics of the React.js, and we will do one small project which is not really really big, just a small project we'll do in React.js, and more projects we'll do from Monday onwards. So these 2 days we have 4-hour session, but from Monday, every day we have 1 hour, and you can attend that, and we will be doing live projects in React.js, and we will be doing about 1,000 or more than 1,000 projects there, and you can put all the projects in your resume, and it will be better if you do with me or on the same day what I teach. Don't think that you will do on the weekend, and you wait for the weekend weekend period to do the part which I have taught. That will make your burden more bigger, and you won't be able to achieve the things. So that's it for the Monday period. We'll start for today's session. So React is basically a framework, and React is a front-end framework, and React is a framework, JavaScript framework, and whatever we can achieve with React, you can write everything in vanilla JavaScript also, but that will take more time, and it will not be so great as you make in React. You can make things very nicely and quickly in React.js, and that's why we are using React. There are other framework also available like AngularJS, Vue.js, and many other. Those are not as great as React, because React has done very hard work in making the framework very great. So it is faster, and it has great user experience. So there are many things, and they have the concept of virtual DOM, which makes React better than other frameworks. And that's it about the React short meaning of the React. So if you have any questions in the class, you can ask in the chat or raise your hand in here. Then once I get free time, I'll try to answer that. So we'll starting the React and completing the React basics and one small project in the React. That is what we are trying to achieve. One second. So first thing which we have to do in the React is we have to install the React, and I hope that everybody have installed the Node.js as I mentioned in the chat. But if you have not installed the Node.js, you can install the Node.js here. So Node.js is required for the React, and all the packages are installed using the Node.js. Okay, so what to begin? Okay, so we have to install the Node.js. We also need to install the Git package, Git software. Git is the repository or repository software version control system, and where we can put our changes of the code in small chunks, and it maintains the history of our changes. So you need to also install the Git and Node.js and Visual Studio Code. So all development will be in the Visual Studio Code. This is the Visual Studio Code, so you should install that also for the development. Okay, so these are the software which we needed for our work. So once, since I have installed the Node.js, I don't need to install it again, but you can install it whenever you want. You can also install the MongoDB, but this MongoDB will not be, we will not use this MongoDB directly now, but all the projects which we will be doing from Monday will really use the MongoDB in the backend because we will be using the parse server, and this parse server uses MongoDB in the backend. So you should also install the MongoDB, not for today's class, but for the uh, Monday session or from the future. Okay. So if you have any question, you can put in the chat also in between the session also, and I'll try to answer it as much as possible once I get free time. So the today's class will go for 4 hours, and tomorrow also it will be 4 hours. So first step is we need to only recorded version will be sent only to those who will attend today's class. It will not be shared with all. It will be shared with people who will attend today's class. So once you have installed Node.js, then we can start with the React, and I'll show you the first step. So the step one will be to create a project. So how we create a project in the React? So generally in olden days when we used to work with jQuery or Angular also to some extent, Angular 1.5, we generally included the script tag inside the HTML and give the source of something called a jQuery or Angular. React also can be done like this, but it has some additional language we need to put in the script tag, and then we can use it. But this will not give us full potential of React when we do like this. So to get the full potential of the React, we need to install it using the npm package. Npm packages are nothing but given by the Node.js, and it will install a lot of packages in our application, and it will be easy to use many more different modules if we go with npm packages. So to install the React, we use the command called npx create React app. So once you install the node, you will have this npx available in your command line, and then you can use this one, npx create React app. And this session will be very interactive. I will be asking questions again and again so that it should be very clear on the React, how the React works and how each thing which I teach will work. So be prepared to answer. It is not that I will just go on with the lecture and finish it in 4 hours. Everything will be interactive. Whatever I will teach will be asked again and again from you so that I know that you understood what I want to show you or what I want to teach you. Many beginners are there. They want to learn React, and uh, many people have started doing the React project also, but they don't have strong grip on the React, how to do the React project. So we will be making our grip stronger by answering different questions. So once I ask question, just put your answer in the chat, because uh, and if you want to talk, I will unmute you so that you can speak. So if I have question, you have to just answer it in the chat, okay, or you have to raise your hand, okay. 1 second. I get attendance automatically when I end the session of this meeting. So it will be, this video will be shared to all those people who are in the meeting. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, so we'll run the following command to create the React app. It is called npx create React app, and then I will name the project, whatever name you have to give me. So for example, I can say 2-day training. Okay, so this is something we run this command to install the React project in our application. So I have the Visual Studio already. I will go to the terminal. I'll click the new terminal. I have my Git repository already here, and I have few folders already there. I have one project Hello World already in my folder structure. I will be creating one more project inside the React.js project, and I will create like this. I'll go to the folder. Okay, let me increase the size. Okay, this is fine. So let me run the command npx create React app 2-day training. So whatever steps I'm going, you go through on your window machine, maybe after the class or as concurrently with me. And if you get any errors, just make sure to ask in the chat. I won't be able to resolve it now, but I will be resolving it when I get time. And many times, if the error is new, something new which I haven't seen it, you can Google it to get the solution. Because this JavaScript world is moving very fast, and every day there is new development, and so many things are there which even which many errors come which we don't know. New errors are there. We have to Google it to get the answer. Okay, let's. So I'll be installing it. Will take few seconds to go through it, and then. Okay, we'll wait for a few seconds till it install everything. Okay, so till it get installed, we'll talk little bit more about the React. Okay, so after this process of installing the React one, this is the npx is already there, will be there in your command line because you installed the Node.js, and the create React app is application which we are using to create a project, and we use the name of the project like this. And once it is installed, we go to the folder and we install many other different packages also. Like let's say if I want to use Bootstrap or any other package, we install it by the following command. I can say npm install --save, and I install different packages. So the few packages which we will be using in our React app project are this. One is called the React Bootstrap, another is called Bootstrap. Then we have the Redux. We can have React Redux, Another package which we use is Redux, React Router, DOM, and there are a few more. I'll just copy paste. They are big. I don't want to type and paste my. So it's called the Redux Dev Tool extension, and then we have the Redux Thunk, and then we have the Redux Logger. So these are the important packages you should install. I will put it in the chat also if anyone wants to. I'll put in the Telegram chat also. Let me put in the Telegram chat. So you can take that also. This is the first command, and then you can use this also to install other packages. Okay, so let it install. Okay, so once we install this, we can take use of any of these packages in our application, and then we can work from that position where after installing we have that package ready. For example, Bootstrap will be ready after installing this. React Bootstrap will be ready after this. So now let's go a little basics of React.js. Okay, so generally in olden days we try to keep the JavaScript separate from the HTML, and we try to make JavaScript files separate and HTML files separate. But with the React, the new trend has come where we put HTML inside the JavaScript. So when I started my career in the React, I was feeling very awkward to put HTML inside the JavaScript. So I was feeling that how come I'm putting the HTML inside the JavaScript? But then later on I have become used to it, and I feel it is more interesting and it is more nicer way to do the things. And this part, putting HTML inside the JavaScript, is called the JSX. So generally, when we write only JavaScript, it's a JS file, and in React, since we put HTML inside the JavaScript, it is called JSX. And whenever I use this JSX, I create my extension with .jsx. It is not mandatory. You can create with .js file also or .jsx. But whenever I put HTML inside JavaScript in the code, I use .jsx. And if my page is only pure JavaScript without this HTML inside the JavaScript, then I use the .js extension. So I'll be creating two types of extension. One will be called as .jsx and another one will be called as .js. In React.js, we create different components, and all components should begin with a capital letter. You can name the component anything, like hello world. I put the capital letter. And to use this component, or to call this component, we use a tag like hello. If I created the component hello world, I will call it like hello world. And I end this tag like this. This is how we create the component and call it component. Let's say I create a component called as input. Since input is my component, it has a capital I. We also have input as HTML tag. So if I want to call the my component, which is custom component, which is created by me, I call it with this capital letter I. And if I want to call the input tag, which is given by the HTML people, I can use small letter I input tag. So this is the default HTML tags, and these are the React components which are created by me. Okay, so this is the difference between the component and the HTML. Okay, 1 second, let me see what's going on. So, question is how to install Redux Thunk. I just told you we have to install this npm packages. So let's copy this line of the code and put it in the command line. So this is my React.js folder I created just now, 2-day training. I'll go to 2-day training folder, and there I will paste this. So I will be installing all these packages. One is Redux Thunk is also there, and other packages also there. I put this one and I press enter. So once I put Redux Thunk here, it will be installed in my application, and I will be able to use it. Okay, so now till it install, we'll go further in the React.js. So what exactly is the JSX? So I will write down the topic. Topic is elements and JSX. So this is the topic we are doing. I'll put it this. So in this, we put HTML inside the JavaScript, and whenever you put HTML inside the JavaScript, you can put any HTML inside the JavaScript. But there are few names like class, for, and there are few more which are the default keywords of JavaScript, which we cannot use inside the JSX. So there is a replace name for each of them, which we will be using in our code. So this JSX, so the that is JSX means HTML tag. What JSX means? JSX means HTML inside the JavaScript. So this can be also assigned to the variables. So this JSX elements are expressions and can be assigned to variables. Like for example, I create a variable value 1, val1, for example, and then I assign the HTML to it, like div hello world. So I can use that. Then I can take this variable and put it anywhere to display this content. So for example, I can say I can have one variable, I can have another one variable. For example, is new to React. So this variable is called boolean, is a boolean type, and it may be true or false value. I'll put value of true, and then inside the inside I will show you exactly where we are trying to put it, but right now I'm just trying to say you the concept. So I will say if is new to React, if a person is new to React, I will display or I will return val1. When I return val1, actually it is displaying in the web page. and else I will display another div tag hi again React, for example. So here what I'm doing, I'm putting this hello world in the variable, and I can use this variable to display the things to the user. And whenever I put, I will explain you the meaning of return, but think about this: when I return something, that means I'm returning this part, and it will be displayed to the user in the HTML page. So this is how we uh, write our tags. That is the JSX tag. JSX tags means HTML inside the JavaScript. Okay, so let's go further. So if we have the variable, and I want to use the variable my inside my JSX tag, how to display that variable? That's what we are trying to do now. So for example, I have constant year equal to 2020. So we can insert this variable inside the JSX as follows. We can use constant greeting is equal to div hello react in year. So when I say this line of the code, it will run this hello react in, and in place of the year, it will replace 2020. That is the 2020 will be displayed here, and to call any variable we use curly bracket and year, and we end the curly bracket. This is how we call the variable inside the JSX. See, this is something string value or numeric value, and I will be able to insert inside the JSX code. Okay, so there are few data types which we cannot use it inside this JSX, which I will show you in a bit. So like for example, I can use string, I can use number, I can put array, but I can put boolean also, but I cannot put objects inside the JSX. So for example, I have a variable called as object, constant object, and the variable is something kind of object. And then if I put this object in place of the year, so like for example, I put this object here, it will not work. It will give error. So we can put any of this, but we cannot put object inside the JSX component or JSX tag. So this JSX part, that is HTML inside the JavaScript, has limitation that we cannot put object, but we can put all these data types. So if I want to nest the element, nest means if I want to create another div tag or another tag, HTML tag inside this tag, or along with this tag, it can be done like this. So for example, if I create greeting equal to, but if I create like this, for example, h1 title, and if I put div tag after that, so this part will not work in React, because we have two elements, and these two elements will give some error in the React, so it is not allowed. So if you want to put two elements, then you have to copy these two elements and put it inside one main div element, and put everything inside it. So now I have main one root element, and inside that I can put as many HTML tag as I want. Okay, so you cannot put multiple HTML elements without root element. So we should have some root element. We need root element. So in HTML, in previous days, when we have empty div, like div tag, we used to create empty div like this. But if we have to create similar thing in JSX, any empty thing, we should use with for example end tag like this. So and in olden days, if I use HTML input tag also, it works without ending tag also. But JSX need the ending tag. We need to end it compulsory. If we don't end it, it will give error. We need the ending of tag. Either use this one or use like this ending tag. We need the ending tag in the JSX. Without ending tag, it will give error. So many times I copy things from the internet. They don't have ending tag. Then it gives error in my JavaScript, but in JSX. But then I put the ending tag, then it will become all right. So if I want to put any class CSS in the element in JSX, I use class name like this equal to, for example, submit button. This is my class name. So I use the class name rather than putting the class. In HTML, we used to put class, only the class. But here in JSX, we have to put class name. So these are the few small things I'm just showing you in the React side and how we do the things in the React. So now the most basic React app requires following three things. What are those three things? One is called React DOM.render. This is used to render our application. Then we need a JSX element called a root node. Okay, called a root node, which I will show you in a bit what it is. I also need a DOM element within which to mount the app. Okay, so these three things are needed, and we'll see now what are these three things. So I go in my application, I install the 2-day training. Inside the 2-day training, we have the node folder, we have the public folder, and we have the source folder, and we have few more other folders are there. Git ignore is there, package log, package readme, yarn.log. Many people may not have yarn.log, but if you have installed the yarn, you may get this also. All the packages which I installed are here in this package.json. So just now we installed the React Bootstrap, we installed the React Redux, router DOM, Redux DevTool, Redux Thunk Logger, and we did not install React DOM and React, which is automatically installed when we created this application. Okay, so this is a package.json file, and if we go to the source folder, we have index.js, and inside the index.js we call the React and React DOM. So just I showed you, we need the React DOM.render. So this is the render. So this will render the our application. It will run our application. Previously, they don't have this string React.stick mode. Right now, they added the stick mode. We can remove also this part right now for today's class and for if you want anytime. So what is the meaning of that React stick which we deleted? I'll tell you later. So now, so this is something we put the React render, and we have this JSX, node. This is called app. This is a JSX component which we are trying to render it here. So after render, we put this JSX component which we want to render, and where we want to render, we have to give the ID of that element. So currently by default it is root. You can change it also. Okay, and this root is in the HTML file. If you go to the public HTML, index.html, you will see we have the element of the root. I can change this ID, then I have to change the ID here also in the React one. And we have this default component which will, after run it, this component, contents of this component will be injected into the root element. So it will be injected inside this div element. So everything which we write will appear inside this when we run this application. So these three things are there. One is the DOM render, and then we need the JSX element, and we need the document where we want to insert our code. So these three things are required for the React one. But we will not really work in this index file. Since we have created this app.js, app component, we'll be working inside this app component, and we'll write all our code inside this app component. Okay, so let's go further now. Let me see. One second. Okay. So teachers Git also, we don't know the Git. So important, someone is asking, they want to learn Git also. So the Git is nothing but the version control, where we keep the history of our files. Whatever the practical part of Git is there are only 2 or 3 points which you will learn automatically when we do the projects together. Okay, let's go further now. Let's open the web page. I'll search for so this is the Bootstrap. This is the CSS kind of utility. It gives us nicer CSS, and which we will be using this a lot in our application. So let me see some template. 1 second. Okay, so let's open one of the HTML files. So this is the web page. If you see, it has the header, it has some body jumbotron, then we have some buttons, then we have some images in this page. So when we build the React, we don't put all of this content in one file. We divide this web page into small parts as per your needs or as per your comfort level. For example, I can put this top part. Let me For example, I can put this top part, this part, in one component called as header. I can put this part in another component called as jumbotron, because this is a jumbotron. Okay, let me Yes. So, and if I go down, since we have this thumbnail, see if you see this thumbnail are copied from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we don't put all this tag. We just create one component of this part. We create only the one component of this, and rest all are called with the same component name, but with the text change. So how to change the text in each of this card, I will show you later. But I only create one component of this one, and all these are added later on using calling this same component but with different text. So basically, we are calling the duplicate items using the same component. So it makes our work easier because we are writing only once and calling it multiple times. Okay. So let's try to see how to put this in our React application. So I'll be building a small application, and I'll be putting this text. I'll be putting. Let me create one template. So I'll create one React component, and I'll show you how we generally create a simple web page and use it in the React application. Let me see which one I can create. I can create any one of them, but here I don't have the reusable component which I can use. And in this case, I have reusable component of this thumbnail, which I can create once and I can call it multiple times. Okay, so this is our application, index.js. So I showed you the folder structure. All your code will go inside the source folder. This node modules are the packages which we install. All those packages will go inside this node module. So what I will do, in the source folder we have app.js, and if I run this application, to run the application I have to say npm start, and then application will run and we can see it in the browser. So as soon as I run this code, I will be able to see the code which I have in the app.js, and then I will try to create my small component with the HTML page which I showed you, so that you should know how the things work. So before putting those things in this file, I will try to think what components I should create for my application. So for example, this is a web page. I can create one file called as the header. Okay, and another component I can create, that will be another file, that will be the jumbotron, that is this part. Inside jumbotron we have two buttons. Now it is up to me. I can put these two buttons in a separate component or separate file, or I can put these two buttons in the same file called as a jumbotron. It is up to me. Then I create another file called as thumbnail or a card. This is the card. In this card, we can see we have the thumbnail and we have this body and we have some few buttons and we have the timeline. So this card can also be created with different file. For example, thumbnail file, small body file, and we can have another base file that can also be created in React.js. So this is how we define our components in our page. I can also create this footer, and inside footer I can also have the left side and right side component, or I can put both left hand and right side in one component, and I can use that. So it is up to me what I want to do it. So let's try to create one web page, this one, so you will get idea how we do here. So I will close this here. Let me close this and we'll work here. Okay, so as soon as I run this application, I can see that in the localhost. When I go to localhost 3000, I can see the web page. So this is the default web page which is given by the React, and we are going with the web page. And I will modify this page. So if I say like this, you will see hello world is coming here and everything is gone. So now I have to build the page which I showed you here, like this one. So this one has a header and this jumbotron and this body, and this we have the footer. So I'll be creating different components. For example, I can put things in separate file also, but I will put it here for now. So to create a component, you can just simply use the function, and I will put header. So this is my header part. Whenever I create a function like this, I have to return some JSX tag, something called as div header. So this JSX tag is returned, and this is called the component in React, and I can call this component inside my app using tag like header, like this one. So when I call this like header, I will be calling this header in my app, and to see that, I will see now header will be displayed here. Since I don't use the logo, I see the error on the logo side. I'll delete it, and rest I'll keep as it is. I'll create few more components. One will be the jumbotron, which will display the jumbotron, and one will be the card, which I showed you, the thumbnail. That will be the card part. Right now I'll put like simple card. I'll put jumbotron, and then last will be the footer. I can put all this in separate file, but for now I'm putting it inside the same file. Okay, so I created different components and I put it. I will call all this component in my app. Initially I'm calling header, I'll call jumbotron, I'll call card, I'll call footer. So once I call this in my application, I will see it live here. So this is some error is there. Header is already been declared. So it's saying I have created header 2 times. Let's go and delete some of them. I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, this header is extra. So we have header, jumbotron, card, and footer. Okay, so now I will copy the code of header inside my header part. I'll copy the code of this inside my jumbotron part. So let me open it. View source. So if I view source, I will start after the body tag. Since this is using the Bootstrap, so we need to include the Bootstrap in our application also, because if I don't use the CSS, Bootstrap CSS, then it will not work. So to include the Bootstrap CSS, we have to copy these lines of the code. These lines of the code called as import Bootstrap dist CSS Bootstrap min.css in our application. So if I go to index.js and I put it here, import Bootstrap this CSS Bootstrap min.css. Since it is included in index.js, it will be available in our app also, and it will be available in our whole application. Okay, so now I'll copy the header part here. So if you see, header is starting from here till here. Okay, so I will put that header in the header file. Okay, so once I put the header inside the header file, you will see I have classes which I have to rename it to class name, because class will not work. So I will rename it So I'm just checking any errors. If I get any errors, I'm not getting any error. These warnings are there, which are due to H-reference, and we will be fixing those warnings later when we build the application. We don't need to think about those warnings right now. Okay, now let's see how our web page looks. So you will see the header has appeared in our web page. So this header is put in the header component. Let's go put the jumbotron part in the jumbotron component. So we have jumbotron component in this section, and it is wrapped inside the main part. So let's put this main part inside our app. So this is my app. After header, I need to, since you have seen that header is body is starting from the header, not the div tag. So we can remove this div tag and put an empty tag. As I told you that React should have one root tag, and rest all will be inside that root tag. And if generally we keep the root tag div tag, but if somehow we don't want div tag in our application, but we want some root tag, we just create an empty root tag or empty tag. This is called fragment, React fragment, where we create the tag without any div or anything. So you will see we have the main, and inside main we put all the jumbotron and all the part here. Since we have the main here, we put everything here. Then I'll put the section part in the jumbotron. So I'll go to the Jumbotron component and I'll put the section here. And similarly, as I rename the class name, I will rename it again here. Okay, now let's see how it looks. So we got our Jumbotron section also. Next, we have to display all these thumbnails, and so these thumbnails will come here inside this div tag. It goes till this div tag. Footer goes outside the main, but all this thumbnail will go inside the main. So footer goes outside the main, and instead of card, I will say container, or I can say content. So I'll put whole content inside the. So I'll paste whole content here, and I'll rename all the class to class name. So I can go through one by one, or I can do file and replace. Or also there is also one way where I can convert HTML to JSX file. And to do that, I will be using HTML to JSX. So this is the website where I can put an HTML part, and I will get all class to be replaced with the class name. So I'll copy this here. I'll put it in the content. And then we'll see. So the spacing is there. This was coming last time also when I was doing last time the same session. So maybe I did not look into it also, because this maybe we are not copying all the all the CSS. I have to go through a few more things like album.csn and see what things I am missing, but that is not the part of this this course. So just we want to see how we are including it. So I put this content here. So all content is displayed here. We are using multiple classes in the class name. Okay, so I put this content here. So do not worry about that space. That space will not come once we fix all the CSS part, and that is not the part of this task. And then we put the footer. Last part is footer. Let's put a footer. So I will put the footer also. So this is a footer, and I put the footer here. So before putting it footer here, I will go and put it here in the JSX, and I will get the class name replaced. Okay, so this is a footer, and if I see the web page, it has footer also. So this is the container, this is the Jumbotron, this is the header. So we can, so in React we have to make like this small components and use it in my application. Okay. What is the question? So the first task is, today's first task is over. This task was, I will answer the questions 1 second. So someone asked the question. So the task was, if we have a very big page, we divide that page into small components and then call that small component inside here. Once I create this small component, I can take any part of HTML inside here and I can put it inside another component. So if I want, I can put this back to top in another component and call that component here. So it is up to me how I want to divide my HTML, whether I want to take this full footer as one component, or I have to put this in the small separate component. That is up to me what I want to do, and I can create as many components as I want. This component makes our life easy because we can include this component anywhere in our application and we can call anywhere. So once we make this footer, it can be used all over our web application. Or once we create this Jumbotron, I can use anywhere in my application. So it's one-time creation, and rest time we can use it. So right now you will see the class name are multiple. So whenever you ask question, you have to ask it in the to all, so that everyone can see the question. If you only send to me, I won't be able to answer it. Okay, so you have to ask question in public so that everyone can see. We are using multiple classes in the class. So this class name, we are using multiple class name, and this can be also dynamic. We can put this each in variable, and we can call that variable also. This is just a wrapper. Main tag is the wrapper. It does not have any role. So you're talking about the HTML question. It's not related to the React. So if you say why class name is added, so you should know the HTML part of it. So it was done in HTML only. We put the class for each div tag. Now why section was used? After the HTML5, people prefer to use some part in the section. It is only the division of the HTML page in different way. And why we use main? We use main to wrap the whole controller. We could have used div tag also. So that is the HTML question, not related to the React. So for the React, the question would be, what is this? This is a component. Okay, so if you talk why things are done in HTML, then we have to go back into the HTML and try to answer that in the HTML. Why a tag you are used? A tag was used because it is a link, and that's why a tag is used. So these are the HTML questions you are asking. So main tag is there in the Bootstrap template, so I used it. Since in the Bootstrap template we have the main tag, I use that tag. It is kind of wrapper to the other tag. You could have used div tag, put the classes to that. It's up to you. So do you have any question on this part? Whatever I did, I created one components and then I use that component in the main component. So the main idea was to wrap the different components in the main component. That was. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll go further to the components. And we can reuse this component like header, footer to anywhere in our web application. And that is the reason we created different component. Okay, so if you don't have any question, we'll go further. Let me talk about props now. So one question is, are these components like header, footer can be used in other file or in the same file only? So the answer is, I created header in this file only to show you that I can use the component, but in real world, I'll copy this header component and I'll create another file, header.jsx. in the header.jsx, I will import the React, and I will put the header component here, and I'll export this header component here by saying export default header, and I call this header component in my app.js. How to import? We say import and name of the component, and I'll say from dot and the file name of the component. Since it is header.jsx, I can use header. I can also say header.jsx, or I can remove this JSX part. I can only rename this header. Now header is in different file. We call that header here. Similarly, I can put Jumbotron in its own file, content in its own file, and inside the content also I can put this div in another file. Similarly, I can divide all this component into small other components, and I can reuse this component in any of my application. So that is the purpose of component. We create the component and we can reuse it anywhere we want. Okay. So let's move further. How to create the component? So for example, I create a new component called as home.jsx. So how to create the React component? There are three ways we can create the React component, and you can use any of the way which you like. So first line is import statement. I put import React from React. Now either I can create the component by writing the function home, and this home should have return statement. Return can be anything, div hello world. So this is one way of creating the component. Another way of creating component is I can create a constant variable home, and I can create an arrow function here, and inside the arrow function I will return this div tag. Okay, so either I can create this like this, or I can create the component in this way. Both are valid. Whatever you like, you can use it. And third way to create component is called the class way. So I can rename it like this. I can create component like this: class home extends react.component, and here I have to call the render method. Inside render method I have to return it. So these are the three methods which we can use to create our components. And remember, this component name should be capital. It cannot be small letter. This method is old method. Right now, nowadays, nobody uses it. But Facebook has not removed this. This React is created by Facebook, but they have not removed this, and they will not remove this part. But they highly encourage you not to use this way. So this way, though you can use it, but it is highly encouraged by Facebook to not to use this way. There are few limitations in this way. Means code becomes little messy afterwards, and to fix that is not very easy in this one. It requires little hard work in this one. But with this one, the way of the hooks created, this will become much easier to work with. So either create it using this function or create the component using this way. So let's go to another topic: props and state. Okay, so let me put this in one text file. One second. So I'll put that content here in the README. So now we will go and see. So why we are using React? We can use jQuery also. We can use other thing also. But I told you React is faster, and React is a single page application. Single page application means when the user loads the page, user do not have to refresh the page anytime in the application. When you go from one page to another page, the content only loads, but a page does not refreshes. So we don't have to refresh the page. No refreshing of the page. So when you go from one page to another page, you refresh the content part. You do not refresh the page. That is the purpose of React. Angular also does same thing. But in Angular, there are some other problems. So people don't prefer that one. And nowadays, most of the people prefer to work on the React rather than Angular. Now we'll do next topic is props and states. We'll do that one. And then we have events list. Okay, so things which we will do today is one thing we did elements initially. Now we will do props. Okay, and third, I have list and keys which we will do after that. And fourth thing which we'll do is the events. So let's do these four things. So this content of HTML will be committed in the Git, and you can get it from the Git. Okay, so I will show you in the end how to get it in the Git, all this content. Let's talk about the props. I will create, I just now created the home component. Okay, so I created this home component. I will do export default home. If I have to call other components, either I can create a new file or I can put here also the new component. But since I want to show you something about props, I will create another component and I'll show the differences. I create another component called as home2.jsx. Now I'll say RFCE. This is a short form to create the component RFCE, and this is some extension I downloaded in this Visual Code, so I can do that. So I'll say this is home2. Now I will call home2 inside the home. So how to call the home2 inside the home is something I will import home2 from home2, and then I will call this home2 here. So how to call this home2? I'll create a tag and I will end the tag. So here hello world is there. I will wrap this in h1 tag, and we have the home2 here. So let's see how the page looks. So since I created this home, I will call this home component in the app, otherwise it will not be visible. So I will open the app.js and I will I will import home from home component. Let me comment all of this code. I don't need it for now. Since I'm working on the home and home too, I don't need this one. And this part also, I don't need it. I will put it somewhere here. And here I will call the home component. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so we have a home component. In the home component, we have the hello world, and I call the home2 component inside the home component, which is home2 here. Okay, so we have the home2, and this is the home1. What if I want to, let's say I want to call home2 two times. Okay, so if I call 2 times, I see home2 2 times. So let's say this is some component where I put the name of the person. So name is something called as John, for example, and his age is 34 years. So if I see the page, it is saying John 34 years, John 34 years. Now, what if I want to, I'm calling this 2 times, but one time I want it with different name, and second time I want it with different name. But if I call home2 here in home, I'm getting the same name 2 times. So if I want to pass different name, I can pass as a parameter, and to pass as a parameter, I give key equal to value. So I can say name equal to John in the first case. Second case, I will say name equal to Bob. So in the first case, I want to display name as a John, and in the second case, I want to display name as a Bob. So I just pass the name as John, name as the Bob. But here it is still coming John in both the cases because we have passed the name here, but we have not used the name here in this home2. To use this name inside this component, I will use the props, and props will have all the key value pair which we are passing from here. Since I am passing name, so if I say props.name, it will be John in the first case and Bob in the second case. So since I have to create the variable, I will use the curly bracket and I will say props.name. So once I say props.name and refresh the page, so in the first case I am getting John, and in the second case I am getting Bob. Similarly, if I want to make this also dynamic, I can also create another variable called as props.age. And here I'm using props.age, and here I have to pass the age. For example, 34 in the first case, and in the second case, I will pass 23. Since it is numeric character, I will make it in the curly bracket as 34. Now I'm passing age also, and I'm trying to access the age, which comes here as props.age. So I'm getting 23 now here and 34. So see how I created one component and I'm using different data and using its same component 2 times with different data only by use of the props. So because of the props, I'm able to use it like this one. So whenever you want to create the component and use with the different data, you can create the same component if the structure is the same, and you can pass the data like this to make it work as per your needs. Okay, so this is called the props. That means we are passing the variables in the component using parameters, using attributes of this component. This is attribute 1 and this is attribute 2. Now tell me one thing. I want to ask a question from you. Those who know or those who have attended my previous class, they should not answer this. I am using home2 here and I am exporting this home2. Can I rename this home2 here to, for example, maybe I can say child, and can I use this child here instead of home2? Since I have given the name of home2 here, will child work if I use child in the import and use child here? You can write down in the chat or you can unmute yourself and give me the answer whether it will work or no. So it will work. Everybody is saying, Arnab is saying no, it won't. So Arnab, why it will not work? Sagar is saying no. Why? Why you are saying no, other people are saying yes? Can you unmute yourself and answer it?
I think there is no reference of child in the home 2Js. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So if we see the page, it still works here, though I change the child. The reason it will work is I am exporting as a default. Whenever I export something as a default, that means whatever I export from here, it will take this component and export it, and then here I can rename it to whatever I want. Even though child is not exported here, but something is coming from this side. Since it is default, then we can change it to child. But if it was not a default, if I would have done only export home, if I would have done like this, constant home2 equal to, okay, let's do this one. Okay, so I create a variable. It's not allowing me to. Okay, so this has to go as a default only. There are few variables we can pass without that one that we'll see later. So since the main purpose is, since we are passing it as a default, so that means we can rename it to anything which we want here. Whereas we will we'll write many functions in future. We will just export it like export constant name 1 equal to 1, for example, export constant name 2 equal to 2. And when I export it without the default, then I should call it with the same name which I am exporting, that is name 1 and name 2. But in here case, since I am exporting with the default, so it is not taking it. It can be replaced or it can be renamed to anything which we want. So right now I am renaming it to the child, but I can put any name instead of child or home to whatever I want. So this one was about the props. Now let's think about the looping through. Let's say I have right now 2 data, but I have a bigger array called as data. It is an array and I have too many values in it. So for example, first case is the same. I have the name of John and age of 34, and I create another one of Bob of 23, and let's create one more. Do of 35. How to pass data from child to parent? Okay, so we will come back to that one. How to pass? Someone is asking how to pass data from child to parent. Here we are passing data from parent to child. Now how to pass data from here to that parent? That is something which we have to look into it when we do states. I will show you that also in a bit. So now, before going to the states, we have to understand this. Now data, I have to loop this data. This data is uh, having 3 values. Right now I am passing 2. Now I want to loop through this data and pass this data dynamically to this home2 component. So to do that, I will start with the curly bracket. Anything which we have to write a JavaScript inside the component, it should be inside the curly bracket. So I have to loop through this data, and to loop through data, we have to say data.map, and map should have arrow function. So this map should have arrow function. We are taking this data, which is this data, and we map it, and we pass the arrow function. And in the arrow function, we have item and index. Two things are coming. Item will be nothing but this each object, and index will be, this will be the 0, like an array, like 1 and 2. So first time item will be John, second time it will be Bob, third time it will be Doe, and index will be, first time it will be 0, 1 and 2. So we have to create the map, and then I pass the arrow function, and we get two things. And inside the arrow function, I have to return HTML tag or JSX tag. For example, I will return this home. I will delete these two. And in each case, in the first case, I have to pass the name this. So I will say item.name. So here I will put in the curly bracket item.name, and for the age I will say item.age. So let's see now how it looks in the browser. It's refreshing. Okay, so you will see now we have the John, Bob, and Doe. All three are coming with different ages, but I am getting some warning. And to fix this warning, what it's saying, list should have the unique key property. So list should have unique key. So when you call this return any div tag, you should also provide a unique key to this return statement. And in this case, unique key is this index. So now I'm not getting this warning, and I'm getting all this data here. So we can loop through the data. So generally when we work in the real life world, we get this data from the backend, and then we loop through this data. Okay, give me 1 minute. Let me finish this, and I'll give 10 minutes break. So I will ask few questions here, then we'll done with this one. So what I'm doing, I'm returning this component, and I have to put key compulsory, and these props are optional as per your requirement. I can also use div tag here and put any content inside div tag. This is another thing which you can do, but since I have already created this component, so I'm calling this component here. Now what will be the problem if my data will be null? Let's say if data is null, what will happen to this one? It will give error. See, it's giving me error. So can anyone tell me how I can fix this error?
That's better. By putting a check over there.
Okay, yeah, check. We have to put the check over here. So we have seen different way of check many times, but here in React, how we check it like this? We can say data and. When I say data and, it means check the data. If data is available, then call this data.map. So I put the check and like this. This is the way we do in the React. We put data and put two ampersand sign and this one. So this means if data is available, then only display this. And now it will not give me any error. But since data, because data is not there, so I'm not able to loop through it. Now I have data, then I can see the data here. So always we do this check here like this one, or we can also do, if data is there, then display, I can put ternary operator, I put question mark here, and after this one, I can put the colon, and I can give another, here I can give another tag, maybe I can say div, no data found. So it will check if data is available, then it will display this part, otherwise it will display this part. So if I put now null again, so it is saying no data found. So either you do ampersand ampersand if you want to display only one part or hide it, but use ternary operator to display the alternate way of this. So generally I also do double check if data is there and data dot length should be greater than 0. So I check two things and then I display it, because sometimes the array is there without any data. So for example, if I don't have this one, I put data dot length, it should be greater than 0, then it's saying no data found. But if I would have removed this part, then see, it's going inside this, but it is not showing any home because this is empty data. So if it is empty array, it will be true in this case. Data will be true and it will go this part and not this part. But I want in an empty case also it should go to this part. So I have to put data dot length also. Both the things I have to check, and if both are true, then only I will loop through the length, otherwise not. So direct using data, we don't need to put any extra check. So I told you, no, if it's only data, if it's empty array, data will be true, but then I'm not able to show that. So I have to check these two things to really see if it is there or not. Any question on this one? So how we looping it? So someone is saying give small break. So I'll give 5 minutes, 10 minutes break. So it is, what is time now?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, ask.
Can we use map method to loop through objects instead of an array?
So generally this map method is only applied to the array. And if you want to use map to object, you have to convert object into array and then use map method on that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay, so we will meet in 10 minutes. here is 5:42 a.m. in my country. I am in the US, California, so it's 5:42. So it will be, let's say, 5:50, whatever time it is. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, thanks, sir. Nice. Very nice, sir.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm back. Let's continue.
Sir, can you
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, someone was asking question. Who was that person? Hello.
hello,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Can you summarize what we saw until now?
Okay. So if you see this README file, we finish with the elements and how to create components and components. So basically, we did the JSX element and how we create a component. We talked about the props, that it's passing the variables to another component. We also saw list and keys, that is to loop through the array to display the data to the user. And then we will also see fourth number, we'll see now use state and then events. Okay, so we'll do these two together, 4 and 5th part together now. So we have finished 1, 2, 3 parts. Okay, so now session is started now. So since okay, so I have this data, I am passing this data to the home too. For each individual case, I am passing name and item, different name and item. I can also see what is coming in the console.log. Index is index and item is item. Okay, so this is something we can see what is upcoming in the console.log also. Let's check that also. So here you will see index is coming as 0 and item is coming as John and age. So this is how we display the data. Okay, so this is how we check it, what is coming in each case. Now, next thing is I have to use the state. So one person in the chat asked me how to pass data from the child to parent. So that's what we will look now. Before going to that, I just want to mention one thing. I cannot change the value of props in this page. So if I do props.age equal to 54, though props is coming anything, if I try to change the props.age to 54, this is wrong. Props are only readable. You should never change the value of the props. Whatever props are coming, it should be as it is. You should not change the value of the props. You can create a new variable and you can assign this prop.h to the new variable, but it is never the real props value should not be changed. This is one thing you should keep in mind. I can create another one called as constant age equal to I can select age equal to props.age, and then I can change this age equal to 45, something like that. So here what I'm doing, I have my own variable that I can change it, I can use it anything I want, but I should not change the real props value. This is one thing we should keep in mind. So key equal to index is a bad practice. One person is saying, yes, key should be unique, but since right now I don't have ID field in this one, so I'm using key as index. Otherwise, If I would have ID, I would have used that instead of key. So generally we should avoid key equal to index because 0, 1, 2, 3, it has some other problems. We should not use key equal to index. But in this specific case, since I don't have ID, so I have used key equal to index. So because we should have the unique value of the key, and that is the reason I'm using it. So never ever use key equal to index, because when you try to delete this one, then React will not be able to render it properly if you use key equal to index. But if we use the unique key as ID, for example, I have created the ID equal to 1, ID equal to 2, ID equal to 3. If I have the ID, best is to use this ID. In real world, you will get ID. So I can use item.id. I will avoid using the index. Okay, so this is the real right situation. We should try to avoid the key equal to index. But here I have used it, but now I added ID to each one, and so I'm putting this key equal to item.id. Now we will see the state part. So how to create the state variable? To create the state variable, I will use constant keyword and I will put anything. For example, I want the state value as, for example, counter. And second parameter of this will be the setter function. I can say set counter. And equal to, I will say react.useState. And inside the useState, I have to give some default value to this counter. It can be 0, or if I have object, I can give object. I can give array, or whatever value I want, I can give the default value here. Since the counter is numeric here, I will give 0. Now what will happen when I write this statement? This counter is a variable created, that is a state variable, and it has the default value of 0. So if I do counter console.log of counter, I can see counter is 0. Okay, so this is how I created the state variable, and this function is to update or change the value of this counter. I cannot use this set counter directly here. This is not allowed and should not be used. So this part is not allowed. You cannot call set counter directly here. This set counter should be called on some kind of button click or some kind of event. You should not update this state variable inside this direct function, direct component. Okay, someone is asking me difference between this dot state and use state. I'll come back to that question later once I am done with the state. Okay, so now I created the counter. Now I have to update the counter. I told you I cannot update it like this. This is wrong. This will go into infinite loop and your application will broke. So I don't want to use this one. Okay, so this is not right. Now how to update the state? How to use this set counter? So for that I need the button. So let me create the button. Button on click. I have to use the on click equal to, and here I will write down something to do it. So I can say here handle me. Okay, so once I say handle me, and let's talk about this on click function little bit before I use the set counter. Now whenever we want to call some event like click or change or key down, mouse down, anything, we should use on and then capital letter C. In olden days, when we used to make the JavaScript in olden vanilla JavaScript, we used to use on click like small letter. But in React, we have to use the capital letter for C, on click like this. And here I have to call some function. Maybe I can say, I can write arrow function here right now. And inside arrow function, I will call this set counter. And in the set counter, I will say whatever the value of counter is, increase that value to 1. So whatever value I am getting here, I will use that value and I will add 1 to it and I'll update the set counter. So initially 0, when I click the button, the counter value will become 1 and then it will display 1. Then again if I click this, the counter value will be 1 plus 1, 2 and the counter value become 2. Let's display this counter value also. So I will put counter value is and variable, since it is variable, I will use counter like this. So currently counter value is 0. When I click handle me, counter value become 1 and I can increase the counter value to as much as I want. So this set counter is used to update the counter value. I have created the function here to set the counter. I could have created another function here. For example, constant handle counter equal to. So I would have created this function handle counter and I would have kept this part inside here. So it is same thing, and instead of then calling this function here, I would have called handle counter. So let's see now if it works same way. So I am able to increase the counter value. I have passed it this function here. If you go to olden way of JavaScript, we used to do like this: on click equal to, I would have using double quote and I would have used handle counter, and I call it like this. If anyone remember the vanilla JavaScript, we used to call like this: on click handle. We were used to call round bracket here only, but putting round bracket here is wrong. We should not invoke the function here. We should only name whatever the function which we want to call. We should never call like olden way of JavaScript like this one. We should never invoke the function directly here in the on click one. This invokement will happen automatically by React when we click this handle button. You should never invoke this in the on click event. In olden days, people think that, oh, handler, we used to call on click like handle counter like this. We should call same way in React. So they create application like this. But this is wrong. We should not use this way. Okay, so we should only name this function name here. So one more thing I want to talk about this set counter. If I remove this set counter and if I use arrow function inside the set counter and I remove this part, so instead of putting counter equal to counter plus 1, the counter plus 1 here, I put the arrow function here, and here I put some CNT parameter. I want to see what CNT is coming as. Okay, so I'm checking what CNT is coming as when I click the button. So when I click the button, I see CNT is coming as 0. Okay, CNT is coming as 0. So what exactly CNT means? You can name anything. You can put X also. Whatever name you want to give, you can give. I just now give CNT just for different purpose. Anything. I just thought CNT. So it should be CNT. You can put X, you can put Y, you can put Z, you can put anything. Now what CNT is? CNT is the current value of the counter. CNT is the current value of counter. So instead of writing this like this, set counter equal to counter plus 1, I can also write a arrow function inside here, and I will return CNT plus 1. So CNT is nothing but the counter value. As I was doing counter plus 1, similarly I can do CNT plus 1 and I have return this value. If I don't return it, this will become undefined. So every time I have to return this value. So instead of this part, I will use arrow function, and arrow function will be nothing but same thing, counter plus 1. So whatever value of counter is there will come as a CNT, and I will return CNT plus 1. So let's check this one now. I click handle me. It is going same thing. I am getting CNT 0, counter is 1. Then CNT will become, CNT is coming as 1 because counter is 1, CNT is coming as 1, and I am adding 1, counter becomes 2. Then next time CNT is coming as 2, I am adding 1, the counter is becoming 3. So we use a different way to update the state. So nowadays, instead of doing this one, set counter plus 1, instead of doing this one, you should do this way. Try to avoid doing this way. This one has some problems when you have multiple forms in a page, multiple fields in a page, and you want to update those fields. So there is one situation where this part gets failed, because when multiple fields try to update at the same time, then this part fails. So not in all situation it fails, but in some situation it fails, and I will show you exactly later when we do project when it fails. So instead of doing this, best way is to do this way. This way will never fail even if we have multiple fields and they try to update at the same time. So we will do like this way. Whatever counter value is there, we update like this one. So it's working fine. Let's try to do one more example so that it will be clear, more clear. I create another variable constant. Maybe I can say title, and here I will say set title. So initially I'll give this empty value to the title, and to update the title we have the function called as the set title. Now let's take use of this one. So initial title will be, for example, I have initial title of Yahoo. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to create a button here inside my home 2. So this is the button inside the home 2, and I'm just displaying title here. So since initially the title is Yahoo, you will see H3 title is Yahoo, and let's go there and see it here how it looks. So initially the title Yahoo. So I'm able to see title is Yahoo. And in each of the home two, I see update my name, update my name, update my name. Now, update my name is doing nothing because I haven't written any code to do that. But what I want to do is I want to update the name of this name whenever user clicks this button. So this title should change to John when I click this update my name. It should change to Bob when I click the update my name. When I click to it should become Doe when I click update my name here. If you see, this state is written here in home.js, and in home 2 I want to click the button and make changes in the home. So this is what we are doing. Few minutes back someone asked me, how will you update the parent from child, or how will you pass the variable from child to the parent? So here we have the variable name. I want to pass it to the parent, that is home. So to pass the variable from child to parent, we use a state variable, and we have to manipulate the state variable from child to parent like this way. So I have the constant counter like the way I will show you now. I will create another one, constant handle title, and this constant handle title will be similar to this set counter. Only thing here I will be updating the title, set title, and I will get whatever title I'll get, it will come in an arrow function. So for example, I'm getting title with the name T, and I will return. So here this doesn't make sense, so I will not use this way. Here since we are getting only one value, so it is good. I can directly use the previous way called a set title equal to value which I am getting. This value will come in the function parameter. So I can use this way also for the set title, but in this case specifically when I want to forcefully change this value, so I don't need this way. I will use directly set title and update the value here. So what I'm doing, here, why I was using this arrow function here, because I wanted the previous value and I want to update that value to the new value. That's the reason I use the arrow function here. But here in this case, I don't need the previous value. Whatever the previous value was there, I don't care. I will update with the new value. Since I want to update with the new value, I will use directly set title and push part the value here. I don't need any previous value. Only in this case, since I need to use the previous value, that's the reason arrow function is much better suited. But here we don't need to use the previous value, so I use directly set title and the value which I want to update it. Now I want to pass this handle title to this my child component. So I will say handle title equal to handle title. So in addition to the name, age, and key field, I'm also passing handle title with the handle title function. And this handle title will go into the child as a props.handle title. It will go in the child like props.handle title. So to use this, I will use this function like this, because handle title will not come directly here. It will come in the props format as we see in name and age. And when someone clicks this update my name, I will call this handle title. So I will say on click equal to, I will call the handle title. I cannot call directly handle title. I'll create an arrow function, and inside arrow function I will say handle props.handle title with the some value. Here I'll pass props.name. So what I'm doing, on clicking of this button update my name, I call the arrow function, and inside the arrow function I call the props.handleTitle. This handle title is coming from the home.js, and I will pass the parameter which I want to update with. So in this case, in the first case I want to update with this John. In the second case I want to update with the Bob. Third case I want to update with the Joe. So here I cannot call directly like this on click of props.handle props.name. Don't do this. Never do like this. The reason is, if you do like this, whenever the page will load, this will be invoked immediately. I don't want it to invoke immediately. I want it to invoke when I click this button. But if I use directly like this, it will invoke immediately, not on the click of the button. So it should be called like this, and so that when you click this, then only this function is called, and inside this function, this part is invoked. So whenever you want to invoke something on event change, you should put it inside the arrow function and then invoke inside the arrow function. Invoking inside the arrow function is fine. Invoking directly like this is not right. It will give problems in your application. So when I do props.handleTitle, it will call this handle title, that is this handle title. It will call the set title. Set title will update the value of title to the value which we have provided here. Let's see in action. Initially title is Yahoo. If I click handle me, counter is changing to 1. But if I click this update my name, you'll see the counter is changing to John. Title is changing to John. Now title is changing to Bob. Title is changing to Joe. This means from the child component, we are updating the variable in the parent component. So this one was asked someone few minutes back. Do you have any question on this one? So we have the state variable, we have the parameter passing, and we have the props here. Whenever we pass parameter in the component, it goes to the another component as a props. But this state variable is created in this component, and we can use this state variable here. Okay, any question, or I should move further? Question is here, can we put handle title, see this handle title in the child component? So this handle title should exist wherever we create the state. If we create the state here, this handle title should be here, and we have to pass this handle title to the child component. If I create some state here in the child component, then related function should be here in this child component. It should not be in another component. So wherever you create this state, you have to call set title. So there is something you need to pass this set title to the child component, because we are updating the state, and the state is set title is present here. So I wrote this handle title here. The purpose of writing handle title here is we should be able to update the state here. I can do something like this. I can pass set title instead of handle title. I can pass set title, and then I can create handle title here. Okay, and then here I will say props dot set title. Then I could call handle title directly in the child component. So this will also work because I'm calling handle title inside my child, but ultimately I'm setting the set title from the parent one. Also, ultimate aim is we need to call the set title of this parent one. So either you call handle title here with set title, or you pass this set title to the child component and create handle title here and call set title from this page. Okay, so here also this one will also work, because ultimately my main goal is to use this set title. So either I use handle title here and pass handle title, or I pass the set title to the child component. So anyway, if we want to update the parent one, we need some reference of parent to the child. Okay, let's revert back. I will do it one more example so that you can have more understanding. So how can we handle counter directly, not using arrow function? So you can directly say counter +1. So whatever the value of counter is there, you have to add 1 here to set the counter. But since we are updating, since we want the parent counter and we are adding it 1 to it, some kind of we are appending the things. That's the reason I use the arrow function. But here we are replacing the things, and so I use directly the set title directly the function and pass the value here. Since we are here taking the previous value, adding it, then it creates problem in some circumstances if I use this way. If I use set counter, now it will not, you will see, but I will show you one case where it will fail. I will say counter +1. So this is fine. I can use this also. So let's use this one. The arrow function part I will show you directly when we deal with that part in our real life project. Right now this is also correct. I will repeat this once again with one more example so that try to tell me anything which you don't understand here, so that I will repeat that part again so that it should become clear. Okay, let's do one more example so it will be better for you to understand it. So let me delete this current state variable. Or I'll not delete it. I will not delete it because you may need it when you will do. So let's copy this one as let's save as I'll save it with home3.jsx file, and in the app.js.
Hi sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah.
Actually, we can change the parent component from child and also vice versa, right?
Change parent component means a variable in the parent component?
Parent component state.
Yes, parent component state we can change from child component also and from the parent component also.
Okay, and we can, if we have a state in the child, we can also change that from parent component.
So, if you have a state in child, it can only be changed in the child.
Okay.
Okay, because parent does not know what child has.
Okay.
And child knows what parent has because we pass variable here. Otherwise, parent will not know. Parent will have 100 child and he cannot take track of all the child.
Okay.
What variable it has. So there is another concept called Redux where state variable is stored at the common place, and that we can change or we can call from any component, because that state lives separately, and we can call or update that state variable using the using that what you call as Redux. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. Let's. I saved this our home, whatever we did in the home one. Now I created home 3 to show you another example if someone is not clear what we are doing. I'll delete this data. I'll delete the child one because I'm just dealing with the state variable. I will delete all this one. I will delete everything here. Okay, so we have a pure just hello world. Okay, let's have the hello world. Now I will create one variable, constant name, set name, and I will use the state dot use state. Okay, let me put empty here. Let me see one question. On click function in home 2 you are not using directly, but in home component on click event is called directly. Okay, so I have to answer this. Why I am calling? You're talking about handle counter, Himanshi, right? I am calling this directly. You're talking about this. Okay.
Right.
So the difference, there is a difference between handle counter and handle title is there. In handle counter, we are not updating with some value. We are taking the previous value and modifying it. But with the handle title, we need to pass a value. When we need to pass some value, then we need to call arrow function because value has to be passed to that function. If instead of handle title it would be like this, I would have not called this value. I would have put some constant, some hard-coded value, for example, x equal to hello. If I want to put this hard-coded value here in the set title, then I would have called handle title directly without, I would have called directly this handle title without an arrow function. Because I don't want to pass any value. Since I don't want to pass any value, when I click this button, it will automatically go to here and it will take my default value and it will update the title that one. But now, since I want to update with some parameter, I cannot pass parameter directly here. Like this. This I cannot pass the parameter here. Okay. So I use the arrow function. Getting me?
Yeah. Thank you.
So we can also use bind method if you want to directly use this without arrow function, then there is a bind method. We can use then it is not this arrow function is not needed. But I don't want to put bind part now kind of thing. So this is the way which we call it. Okay, let's go further. I will open the home 3. So in home 3 I have created a state variable name and set name and use the default value of the empty. Now I will create input box. So I create the input box. Okay, now I will also do console.log of name is name. So let's see how this looks like. So I have the hello world and I have the text field. I can update this text field. But when I change this text field, it is in the air. It is meaningless. I cannot use this one unless I save it somewhere, and then after I click the submit button, I put this into the database. So right now, how will I access this value? I just put the value here, but I cannot access this value. So I will use the state variable to access this value. So how generally in React we access the text field? We put the value equal to whatever name, whatever state variable I need to update. For example, here I need to update the name. So I will put the value equal to name. Initially, I will give some initial name as John. Now, if I show you, initially since I put the John, I can see John here. Why I'm able to see the John? Because I put the value of name, and name has initial value of John. So I'm able to see the value of name. But now when I will try to change it, it will not change. I'm trying to put something in the keyword in this one. It's not able to change. Can you tell me why it's not changing? Can anyone tell me why I am not able to change the John value? It's a pretty simple text box. So whenever you answer, you don't answer to me, you answer in whole group so that everyone can see your answer. So someone is sending me the chat to me only, and I'm only able to see it. So that way other people will not be able to see it. So right now there are no props here. Though we are passing value attribute here, this is not called props. Props is only used in the component which I create. This is the input box. It's not a component I created. So this is not a props. I'm not able to change the value because it is a default state, right? So name is hard-coded value with the John. And so anytime I try to change this also, it will only take the name which is coming from this name. If I remove this value part, then it will take it. Then I can change it because I'm not attaching to any state value. I can change it. But since I want to access this in my ultimate submission, so I have to use the value of name so that I can track what are the fields people have updated with. If I don't put this value, I won't be able to access it in the end when I click the submit button. So now I put the name, and on change of every change of this input box on change, I will use the set name and update the value. So how to use the set name? So whenever the change happens, I will call the arrow function, and in the arrow function I will get event tag, and to access the value of this input box I can use console.log e.target.name. So this is the whatever the user will put in this field, I will get this in this e.target.name. Let me remove this for few minutes and then I will add it back again. I'll just show you what happened when I do the on change. When I do on change, you will see nothing is coming. e.target.value. It's not name. Value. Value. Udit, right. You're right. It's value. So when I change it, you will see the value is coming here in this one. So what I will do, whenever user changes anything, I will call the set name and update it with this one. Okay. So now whenever something will change, set name will be updated, and second time this value will be with the new value which user has put, and you will see you will be able to edit the name field. So now initially it is John and I can edit it. Because previously I was not able to edit it because it was always taking the name Now also it is taking the name, but every time name is updated with the new value. So I am getting the updated value of name here. Okay, so we are using the state variable and we are trying to update the state variable. So in the real life, you may have many fields, and when you want to update the field, you will update the field like this way. So right now I put only the name. You can add one more for last name, for example. I will name it 2, but it is the last name. And I can put name 2 here. So let's check both the fields. So first is the name, second is the, okay, I am getting the same one here because I am using set name only. I have to use set name 2 here in this case. So we are able to put first name and last name here. So this is, we are creating 2 fields because I want to update the 2 input value. In real life world, you may have 10 fields or 20 fields. Will you create 20 fields like this? So calling it directly with parameter will invoke it right away, hence we use arrow function. You are right. Since calling it with directly parameter, it will invoke the function and then it will break our application because we are calling something which we don't need it. And that is the reason we use arrow function. You are correct. Okay, so my question is, I have 20 fields in my form. Will I create 20 such states like this? Yes or no?
I think we have to create for getter and setter.
Yeah, so getter and setter like this. This is a getter, this is setter. So
Yeah,
you may
so we have to create 20, suppose we have a 20 properties or 20 fields,
right.
variables. So
Right.
we have to create for similar things which are available in .NET. So we have to create also.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll answer it. So you are also right. We can create 20 fields. It's fine. So we can create 20 such fields if we have the 20 field in the form. But better way is to create. For example, I can say form values, and I'll say set form values, and here I will create an object. So instead of creating 20 fields, we will put everything in this form values, and this form value is the object. And instead of saying value name, I can say form values.name, and if it is not there, I can say empty one. Similarly, I can do this for name 2, and instead of, and here to update it, I'll tell you how to update it. Right now I'm not updating it. So instead of calling these two,
Right.
I will use form value, which is an object, and I will call this form value for the value field. But for on the change, I will write a common function. Let's write a common function. Constant handle change equal to E, and here I have to update the set form value. So to how to update the set form value, I'll show you in a bit. So before I'll show you, I will put some default value. For example, I'll put in the name John, and in the name 2 I'll put Doe, so that I should be able to see default value. In the first case, I should be able to see John, and in the second I can see do. Let me see how it looks here. So I'm able to see the default one, but I won't be able to change it. The reason is same. I'm not updating the state. So to update the state, we will use the handle change. And in the handle change, I will get, uh, so whenever there is a change, on change, I will call this handle change. So now here I'm not calling arrow function. The reason is simple that I'm calling this this handle change directly, this handle change. And I'm not invoking it. Invoking is wrong. If we need to invoke somehow, that is wrong. We should not invoke it. If something we need to invoke it, then we need to change it to arrow function. But here, we don't need to invoke it. We need to just call this function, and this function, when gets invoked, we will be here. So here, I will do console.log. Now, what I have to do for this field, I need to update with name, form value dot name, and for this field, I need to update with form value dot name too. But if how will I get name 2 for this one and name for this one? For that, I need to give the name para attribute here with the name here. And in the second case, I'll get the name of 2. And if I have more input fields, for example, we'll add more input fields. I'll give placeholder also so that user can see what I have to enter. Enter first name, and here I'll give enter last name. And for example, if I have more of such field, like enter middle name, here it will be name 3, for example, and I'm putting name 3 here. I'm removing this default value for now. So what I'm doing, I'm giving the name field in each case so that when I update it, I should know what I'm trying to update it. So I give the name field and I give the placeholder for display purpose. Now if I refresh, here it's saying enter first name, last name, middle name. Now I put something and it goes to the console.log. Okay, so inside the console.log, how to get which text box I have updated. So to see that which text box I have updated, I will use e.target.name. And what value I am putting, I can see by e.target.value. So if I go here, I put something, you will see name. I am touching the name field. I am touching the name input box, and value is D, then F, and then D. If I touch second, I am getting the name 2. If I touch third, I am getting the name 3. Now I have to update with name and value. I have to update the form values with the name and value. So how to do that? I will use set form values. I told you previously, whenever I want to update it, I have to use the arrow function. Since I have to update this object, I will use arrow function, and inside the arrow function, I'll get the initial value. So initial value will be whatever I have in the form value currently, that will go inside initial value. So for example, I can name it to anything, FV. So for example, if I put name as John, name 2 as Doe, name 3 as Bob. So these are the default value I'm putting. Just I want to show you what FE is coming. So FE is the initial value. Initial value means the previous value. You can say previous value. I will use previous value. So previous value will be, I want to update the name I want to update this input box. But before updating this, I want to see what is the previous value in this input box. So let's check it. So initially I put John Doe and Bob. If I try to edit it, okay, I'm getting error. Let's see what the error is. Cannot read the name of undefined. So form values dot name. Okay. Okay, so since I created this function should return something, otherwise it will give me error. So right now I will not do any change. I'll just return the previous value so that error should not come. Okay, so since I have to return something, the object, since I created this object, I have to return the object, and I was not returning the object, so it was creating the error problem. So now if I change it, you will see the previous value is what? We have the name and name2 and name3. So these are the previous value. And that what I have to do, I have to update only the one which I am touching. So how to do that? How to do that, what I am touching? So this previous value is object. So I will put it in the object and I will use the spread operator. That means I am creating the copy of this previous value using the spread operator. Now also it will work same way. I can see the form value with John, Joe, and Bob. So if I pass the previous value like this, or I pass the dot dot dot, it is one and the same thing. You don't have to worry on this. And now I have to update whatever I'm touching it. So for first case, I will be touching the name field. So I'll put that name field in the rectangular bracket. And then I'll put colon and I'll put the value outside it. So what this will do, it will take the previous value. What is the previous value? Previous value is this 3, this object. And then what it is updating with? It is updating with the name which I touch, the field which I touch. If I touch the name, it will update the name. If I touch the second input box, it will update this name too. It will, if I touch the third input box, it will touch the name 3 and with the value which I have put in that text box. So ultimate part of this, ultimate value will be, if I touch the name, these two will remain same. This will not be updated. Only the name will update it because I am putting this key value pair. So whatever I'm touching, I'm updating that only. If I edit this one will not be updated, this one will not be updated, only this one will be updated. Previous value will take all 3 as it is and it will update only which one I am touching. So if I'm touching input box 1, it will only update the input box 1. Rest 2 will remain same because this previous value is complete object and this is the part which we are touching it. So let's see what it looks like. So now we have this one. If I put S, you will see only the name is changed to S. Name 2 and name 3 remain same. And if I, okay, second one is creating problem because I might have not given correct thing to the second one. Okay, I am getting error in the second one. Let's see what is the error is there. Okay, so sometimes we get this error kind of thing and it is giving me the solution also. I should use event.persist, which I have to use it. So what I have to do in this one, I have to use event.persist. So it is giving me solution also. What is the problem solution to this problem? So now what I'll do, I'll change the first one, change the second one. When I change the second one, first one remains same. I'm only able to change the third one. I am only able to change the third one. So it's little difficult now because you're doing this first time. But when you do continuously every day, then it will become very easy. So only thing you have to remember is that you have to update the set form value with the previous value, because this is the object. Okay, we have to update the previous value because this is the object. We have to take the previous value and update with the current name and the current value. And every input box should have the name and value. Okay, so is the name and the value which we are getting it from here. So only thing you have to remember, every input box should have the name and value. And on change we call the on change function. And in the handle change function, we have to call the previous value with the new values here. So this is way to use the new value here. Okay, so let me, can you tell me what problem you're getting in understanding this part so that I can explain that part? So e.persist, I think e.persist save the, this values which we are passing it. So this is something, when I don't put it, it gives me error and give me the reason also. We can see the reason and you will know what things we are trying to. So it gives me the reason also that this is the synthetic event reused for the performance reasons. So it's saying if you are seeing this, you are accessing the property target on the release nullified synthetic event. This is set to null. If it must keep the original synthetic event around, use the event.persist. Maybe you can go and Google it more about what exactly it means. So generally this event.persist keep the event parameter as it is. Otherwise it becomes null if we don't use event.persist. This is what it means. So it gives the solution also, and more more you can read on the Google what exactly it means. So just for now, just remember we need to follow what error is giving and what solution it is giving me. So let me walk through this again. Maybe it will be more clear. So whenever we have the big form, we will not create separate state variables. We will create only the one variable, that is form value. You can rename it to whatever you want, and we put the object on it, and we put the set form values, and then each input box should have the name field, and in the value which you want to save in the form values, and you call some function to update it. So you have to do for each of the field in the page. Then in the handle change event, you have to call e.persist. Generally I don't put e.persist initially, but if I get the error which you saw now, I add this one. So if it gives the problem error, I use e.persist. Otherwise, no need to put e.persist. Okay, so this is something e.persist. Now you have to call the set form values. In the set form value, you get the previous value. Previous value initially is the object. So you get this object. Here is the object. When I put dot dot dot, that means I am creating the copy of this previous value. I am creating the copy of this previous value. I am not using previous value directly. I am creating the copy of the previous value, and I am appending it with the name and value field. What is the name in this case? e.target.name. Whatever name you have given here or here or here. You can change it to first name also. So if I change it to first name, last name, middle name. So I'm changing name to this one, then that means this can be accessed with middle name. This can be accessed with the last name. This can be accessed with the first name. Yeah, based on the name, we are displaying the value also, and we are updating whatever the name is coming. So first case, first name is coming, and updating the target dot value, whatever value you change it here will come it here inside the e dot target dot value. And this way we are updating the state form value, and that when it gets updated new time you will see the new updated value. Now since I changed it, so when I change it to, when I type something, you will see we get first name, last name, and middle name. So we created a common function to update the form values. So this is the normal way of changing the values in the input box in the React. In olden days, when we used to do JavaScript normally, we would have not used this on change behavior. We were using this only, and in the on submit, we were taking the form values and we were submitting to the backend. But in the React world, we have to use this on change one, and every time user change, we should immediately update the state variable as I showed you here. Now, why previous value is used here? The reason is I have to take this previous object which I have and update with the new name and value, because I will be having 10 fields. I will not update all 10 fields at one time. So all previous 9 fields should remain same. That's the reason I use the previous value here. Only thing which I need to update is this name and value field. Because I have 10 fields, I should only update the current field. I should keep all other fields same in the previous value. That's why a previous value is used. You can name it to anything. You can put to X, you can put whatever you want. Right now with the current scene, previous value is empty. But as soon as we try to fill this one, the previous value will become whatever is there previously. So I'll show you what is the previous value is there. It will not be empty all the time. First time it will be empty object. Second time it will be whatever you have used previously. So for example, if I put first time, the previous value will be an empty object. But if I put something inside it, then previous value will become first name equal to whatever I have put it here. But when I try to do this, this one will also be there in the previous value, and whatever changes I'm doing also will be in the previous value. So I'll show you what is there in the previous value here.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me finish this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I click D, you will see initially previous value is empty. Okay. And it is first name is updated with the D. Now if I put D again, you will see previous value is D, because initially I put D, so I got previous value D and new value is DD. Then I put 3D, previous value is DD, and I'm putting D here. Let's put in the last name F. So previous value is already first name. Since I put the first name before, so previous value has that first name. That's the reason we have to take the previous value, because it should keep all the fields in this previous value. If I don't take previous value, then if I take only this part, then all previous values will be discarded and we will see empty set there. So we have to take the previous value and then update it with whatever field we have to do it. Yeah, now ask whatever you ask.
We have question related to previous value. So, as per the demo, I am understanding that previous value we are keeping through e dot persist. So I am right.
E dot persist has nothing to do with the previous value. E dot persist has nothing to do with the previous value. This previous value is related to this one. Okay, so don't mix this e dot persist with the previous value. This e dot persist is only used to for the input box. This e dot persist is the normal JavaScript part. which is used for the input box. So it is only I use it because the way the React handle it, it needs the e.persist in the application. Otherwise, e.persist is nothing to do. I think in the future releases of the React, they will handle e.persist automatically, and you don't have to put this e.persist. This is the only way they cannot handle the form input properly, so they are using the persist to use this form handle properly. So they will be removing this in future. You don't have to use it. They will handle it automatically. But don't mix this with this one. Forget about this. This one is only to prevent the error which I was getting now. In future version, I will not get the error, so I will not be using it. But only remember that previous value is nothing but this value. And we're taking the previous value and then we are updating with the new value. We are updating the, yes, we are updating this object. We are updating the partial object. We are not updating the whole. We are not replacing the form values with the new value. That is the reason we take the previous value and we only update the partial part of it.
Sir, one confusion. Suppose we have a getter forms value and setter set form value. So suppose in input box I write ABC. So that ABC will be reflected in set form values method. So that
Can you write down what you are trying to do that in the chat? Maybe try to write down because I'm not clear what you are trying to say.
okay.
Okay, so 3 dots are must. So this is normal JavaScript. Whenever you want to update the object, you use the previous object. So we use 3 dot. If you don't use 3 dot, it will not work properly. It will create some other problem. So we need to create the copy of this object and then we update it. So that's the reason we are using this 3 dot of this one. If we don't want to create the copy, then it's fine. But right now we have to create the copy of the previous value and then it update with the value. That's the reason we are creating 3 dots. Otherwise, we would have done like this also. Otherwise, we would have done like this also. We know previous value is the object. We have done like this, previous value of this one equal to. So this one would have also be fine, but this is not the way we fix in the React. In the React, we always do like this. We take the previous value as a copy and we update it. Okay, so this is the way we use this. React.useState, this is the default value, initial value, which we assign to this form values. Okay, any other question? Since we took the copy, I put the 3 dot here. Otherwise, I showed you, I would have done like this also. But this is not the way which we do in the React. Okay. Now, and someone asked me the difference between use state and the set state. There is a set state and use state. So generally, set state is used in the class. When I create the class like this, component like class, you remember I was showing you how we create a component using the class also. So this set state is used inside this class. And use state is kind of hooks, React hooks, which are used in this functional component. This is called functional component, and we use the use state. So since we won't be using the class component, so set state is out of question. Don't ever use that one. I put this object. So as if I say it correctly, that since we're taking multiple data, so we create the object here. and we put empty object for the form values. Remember, for the name, we created name few minutes back, and here I was using empty. I was using just an empty space because here I don't need to put multiple values. I was just using the name, so it was fine. Okay, so let me see what I can do again more in it, so that you should have more understanding of it. Okay, let's refresh this state again, so that you get more understanding of it. I'll create this file as home4 kind of thing. Okay, I got so many questions. Let me see. We use one state variable for all fields. Yes, you're correct. We're using one since we're creating the object. So that's the reason we are using the one. We are using the one variable, state variable. Since what if we have to set only the first name input, ignore other input box? How can we spread operator? Okay, so as far as spread operator can be used only when you have the object. If you have the simple normal string, no need to create a spread operator. So you are saying how you do it first one. So if you want to manually do, if you want to only do first name, if you change the first name, it will automatically update only the first name and rest will not be there. But if you want to do only the first name, specifically hard-codedly, you don't want to do the second one, so you can say first name equal to e.target.value. So previous object is whatever we have, empty object, and now here I'm only updating the first name. I'm not looking second or third. So if I use this one, whatever value I put in the first, second, third, it is updating hard-codedly the first value. So I'll show you this one. So if I do first one, it's updating. When I do second one, you will see first one is changed. It's changing the first one because I'm not updating dynamically the field, any field. Here I'm taking the dynamic name and changing the value. So I don't know what exactly your question is. Depends you. Is that if you want to do first one, if you do like this, whenever you put first one, it will automatically update only the first one. The rest will remain same.
So, sir, if we want to update only first name and want to ignore the if we are doing changes in second name and the last name, then we do not want to store it. Only first name we want to store. Then how can we do this?
So if you want to store first name, you want to store it in object or normally string. Since you want to do only one, why you want object? If you want to store in one.
Yeah, I want to store in object.
So even if you want to store in object, then I showed you you can take the first name like this and store the value. So this will only update the first name.
But in this case, if we are changing in other text boxes, it is also reflecting in the first name.
Because I'm calling handle change. So you call only, okay, you create a function, another function only for the first name. Handle first name. And here you only put first name. So now you call this function for the first name. So it will not change in the other things. Now if I do, though it will call this, but this is only for the first name and this is for all other one. But since the object is same, you are getting all three in this object.
Okay. Okay, so got it. Thank you.
Okay, let's take one more example so that state should be clear to you. So let's take let me take one called as constant language. I will not use setter now, only I am using the getter, and I call the react.use state, for example JavaScript, and I want to display here I am learning language JavaScript. Okay, so this is the state variable I have used, and I am calling the state variable here. Let me go to the app. Since I am using only one, I'll call the home 4 now, and let's see now. So I'm learning JavaScript. So what I did, I created the language as a state variable. I will not use the setter one. I just give the default value, and I can use this language here in my JSX. Okay, now I will use setter. So if I want to update this language, I will use setter. So set language will do what will do. It will change. If I update this set language, it will update this language variable, and I can change this to different value. So for example, I can create a button and I say on change. I will write down the function here, change language, and here I will say arrow function. Here I'll call arrow function, and I'll say set language to something. I'll say Java. So initially it is JavaScript. It will display JavaScript. When I click the button, it will call the set language to Java. Since I am not using object and I don't want to update the object, I want to replace it with some new value. So it is update only, but replacing the whole with the new value. And it is a string kind of thing. In object, we have to update only the one key field. Then we use different way. But here I can use directly set language to Java. I will refresh it and I'll change the language. Okay, it's not updating. Is it updating? No. So why it's not updating? It should be on click. Change works only on the text box. Here it is click. So I'll change it to Java. So this is how we use the state variable and we update the state variable. So I'm going through this again little bit so that this state should be clear on it. So right now let's change it to Python now. Initially it is Python. I will also use another state variable called as years of experience, and then I will say set years of experience. See, I am using years of experience like this, and I'm using set here and putting capital Y, capital E. Is it possible? Is it correct, or is it will give me error if I use something blah blah blah? Will it work to setting this years of experience? Yes or no? So instead of set years of experience, okay, let me refresh it. Okay, let me see what people are saying. Yes, it will work. So yes, it will work. This is something, the name which I gave, I kept the same name and put a setter because for the name purpose only. But if I want to work it uh, regarding the work wise, it will work fine if whatever name I give it here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, one second. Let me. Okay, so what I did, I give the years of experience, and I give the language. The language initially is Python, and when I change it, when I click the button change language, it goes to Java. Let's create input box after this. And I will put here input type equal to text, and then I'll say value equal to years of experience. Then on change, I will call the arrow function and I'll close the input tag. In the arrow function, event will go, and here I can say set years of experience to event.target.value. So whatever user has put in the whatever user has put in the input box, it goes in the set years. And I can say I'm learning which language. I'm learning language Python or JavaScript or whatever it is, and I will write down I have years of experience. So this is what I'm writing it. Okay, let's take that one. So the first one is language. I'm learning Python and I have 0 years of experience. I'll change the language to Java, and I can say I have 12 years of experience, or I have 4 years of experience, and I can change Java one time. Same this input box, we can change it to whatever we want, and we can change the language. Here I'm not using the object, I'm using the simple key value pair, simple string here and simple numeric here. So it becomes easy to do this set language and set years of experience. Whereas in this case, I was using the form value, which is little difficult to understand in the first time, but we will be doing thousands of forms soon in the next month. And so this part will become so much easy that you don't have to really remember anything. So this is the common one for all the forms. So one time if you have used it, every time you will be using this one. So it will become very easy for you to understand next time when we'll do the form. Right now, since this is the first time, so this part becomes little tricky to understand it. But as we do it again and again and again, this 2 days is only for the starting period. But my ultimate aim of my lecture is I have to build more than 1,000 projects in very short period of time we'll do, and that will start from the Monday. So there we will be doing thousands of forms. So this part will become very like a day-to-day kind of your work. So it will become very easy. So right now, okay, so got it. This part is little difficult now, but I will be repeating it again and again every time when I do form. So that will become easy for you. So previously, someone has asked what is good, classes or functional components. So when React came initially, everyone was using the class components. And now, no one is using class component. So React also in the documentation suggested don't use class component, use the functional components. Okay, so we will be using functional component because they introduce hooks which can only be used in the function components. It is not used in the class components. So Facebook also has suggested don't use class component, use the function component. So everybody is now using the function component, and I also recommend you to use function components. Any other question? So in this page you will feel very easy because we are just using the string and we are trying to update it, and we are using this called as integer or numeric, and we are updating it. So it's very easy, just update this numeric value, just update this string value. The complexity comes when there is an object and we need to update, and that is also actually easy, but first time you'll feel little difficult. But when we do many times same thing, you will see, oh, this is a part of life, and you will be. So this is called hooks. React.useState is called hooks. We're using the hooks, React hooks. Okay. Any other question you have, just ask me, or let's move further. Now, let's make this only, since we are using here string and then we are using numeric or integer value, let's try to use here object instead of the string and numeric. So I will say constant of developer, and I will also say set developer. So instead of numeric and string, I will use object here again. So instead of numeric, I'll put object, and I'll give you the initial value of language equal to empty, years or experience. I will make initial value of 0. So I'll not use now this one. I'll use these two. Okay, let's keep this for reference. Okay. Okay. So now what I will do, when I click the button, I have to update the language and years of experience. Now I will not use the spread operator now for this exercise. I will just use hard-codedly directly updating the directly I'll update the you can call as language and something called as experience. So when I click this language, I will set developer. I will use the set developer because my function is set developer. So I use the set developer. And now what I'll do, I will not take the previous value anything. Okay, I'll just update with the new value which I want. What I want language to change to JavaScript. And I will also pass years of experience to 0. So whenever I am clicking this language button, I am manually updating this whole object with language equal to JavaScript and years of experience 0. So if I put initially 20 and Python here, but when I click this button, I will updating it with language of JavaScript and years of experience to 0. Let's see how it looks now. Okay, I have some error because I created these two variables and I'm not using this here. So let me use here like developer dot language and developer dot years of experience. Let me delete this input box. Okay, I got it now. So initially it's saying I'm learning Python and I have 20 years of experience. I changed the language. It's changed to JavaScript and 0 years of experience. Now I'll add this text button input one. Now here instead of years of experience, I'll say developer dot years of experience. And when I update it, I will call one function called as handle change kind of thing, handle change. Let me write down the handle change. So here I will say set developer. So now previously what I was doing, I was using the arrow function. Okay, so I'll not use arrow function in this case. I will directly call developer. Whatever is in developer, I will create a spread operator of developer, and then I will say years of experience to, for example, 15. So what I am doing now, when I click the language, I change both the language and the years of experience. When I change the input box, I keep the language same, but I change the years of experience to, actually not 15, I have to take from the E. It should be E.target.values. I just put 15. So whatever user has put, I will take that. Here I am not using arrow function. I am taking whatever value of developer is there and appending it with, or updating the years experience with the new value. So when I put dot 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 developer, it will take this whole thing here, and then it will update with the new years of experience with this one. So this is what is happening in the background. First it takes the developer, whatever value of developer is there, and then it will append here, change the years of experience. So it is 2 years of experience, that's fine, because I have to update with the new value. Let's check that. So I have 45 years of experience. Is that clear? We don't have to bind in this case. Generally bind, you use bind when you use the classes, then you can use bind, otherwise it will not work. But with this one, it will work without bind. Okay, so no need to use the bind here in this case. We used to use bind in the classes where it was not working without bind, but here it will work without bind. Okay, so everything will be without bind. No need to use bind. Okay, it will work without bind. Because we are using arrow function, and arrow function does take all the functionality of the bind. We don't need bind. Okay, so today we'll finish this here only. If you have any question, ask me. Otherwise, I'm done with today's one. So tomorrow we'll do some more small basic stuff, and we'll do one project, small project, to understand how these things work. Okay, thank you.
Sir, can
Yeah.
we the project that is available on Git, can we see